Hello, my friends. Brian King here. I posted something on Facebook yesterday around the theme of when you take the behavior of your child personally is the moment you miss what your child is trying to tell you. And the responses were kind of varied, as I expected. There are some parents who believe that you need to take it personally, that if your child makes it personal, how can you not react? Well, that's a belief, that's a pattern, that's not something that by default, that's how you are to respond. There are a lot of ways people use to push your buttons, pull your trigger, whatever metaphor you use to describe somebody else, inviting you or giving you permission to be emotionally reactive. If you're emotionally reactive, sorry to tell you, that's on you. If you have those buttons that are so easily pushed, if you are very protective of your own emotions because they're fragile, again, that's on you. This, speaking as somebody who used to cry at the drop of a hat when I was a kid, everything was about me. If somebody was talking next to me and I couldn't hear it, they must be talking about me. They must be criticizing me. And I carried that around for years. I work with clients now that still believe that they're so self-conscious and so insecure that their inner dialogue is constantly running around. I hope people don't look at me. I hope they're not criticizing me. I'm not judging me. I hope they're not judging me. Because they're thinking that so readily, that becomes the lens through which they see the world. They're spending so much time trying to protect themselves from criticism that they're afraid that anybody that approaches them must be about to criticize them. This is why there's so many kids who can't stand feedback or correction or direction, because they're one hair away from melting down emotionally because they're so afraid they're going to be criticized. Well, let's say you're a parent, though, and you're still carrying this with you. You still have this really tender, sensitive aspect of you that is just one hair away from falling apart if somebody criticizes you, because you're still emotionally fragile in that way. You still take personally. You still believe that if somebody thinks ill of you, that it's somehow a reflection upon your value as a human being. We call that shame. That I'm bad. I'm not worth it. I'm not good enough. This belief that somebody else's opinion of you determines your entire value as a human being. And that takes a lot of work to undo that. And I had that as well. Growing up with these undiagnosed challenges, feeling stupid, being bullied by teachers and my peers, it was hard for me to think I wasn't a piece of crap, because people treating me poorly seemed to be the way of things. There were very few exceptions in terms of people treating me well. Majority rules, as they say. The majority of people were treating me like I was garbage, so I thought, well, that must be the case. So when I realized I didn't want to feel that way anymore, I began actively searching out strategies to help me shift my mental game, my mindset, so that I could be much more effective, feel better, be more resilient. And one of the best strategies I came across was from a very wise man who lived a long time ago. And I'll tell you the story I learned about him that just was a total game changer for me. And I began using this with my sons when they were younger, because they all have Asperger's and ADHD, very, very reactive, very prone to meltdowns, very prone to blaming. When something's not working, I hate you, I wish you were dead, I feel like I could murder you right now. Really awful stuff that my kids used to say to me and my wife. And it's hard to be very resourceful and supportive and loving when you believe that what your kid is throwing at you is true and that you should take it personal, and so on. So the story that I heard, as I mentioned, it took place a couple thousand years ago. There was this wise man who was walking across the countryside, sharing his wisdom with people. And his wisdom was so profound that he attracted followers everywhere he went. And there was one man that heard about him, and this man was really bitter. Let's call this guy Tom. Tom was really, really bitter. He had a lot of hardship in his life. He'd been let down so many times by people that he thought, Any person out there is a fraud, just looking to exploit him and make him feel bad. And he heard about this wise man who was very sincere, very compassionate, and was so centered in himself that you couldn't rattle him no matter what negativity you threw at him. And Tom said, oh, yeah, right. He's just another fraud like everybody else. Let me show you what a fraud this guy is. So Tom went and sought this man out. And upon meeting him, he went up to this man and proceeded to chew him up, try to spit him out, call him every name in the book, call him a fraud, tell him he was a phony, tell him he was worthless, that he was conning everybody around him, that he didn't deserve what he had, and blah, blah, blah. Tom just gave this guy his worst. So at some point, the wise man interrupted Tom and said, excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question? Tom said, yeah, I guess. And the man asked, if I were to decline the gift of your abuse, well, let me back up a little bit. Got ahead of myself. The man asked, if one were to offer you a gift and that gift were declined, to who then would it belong? Tom says, well, I guess it's mine then. If you don't want the gift, I guess it belongs to me. And the man said, right. So if I decline to accept the gift of your abuse, to who then does it belong? Tom froze. He thought about it. And it didn't take him long to realize that this man he just met is different. And he decided to follow this man as a student. So the lesson here is that when people are verbally abusing you, they're projecting their pain upon you, no matter how personally they try and make it. If they try and make it personal, it's simply because they are projecting their pain and not taking responsibility for it. They want to blame you. They want to hold you responsible. And when you accept that responsibility, not only are you taking their pain upon yourself, but you're validating their belief that they're helpless. So you're doing them a tremendous disservice by saying, my fault, you're right, I'm a bad parent, and so on. Yeah, you don't want your child owning their pain in that you're telling them it's their fault. What you want to impress upon them is that it's their work. It's their work to do, to figure out how to create a different experience for themselves. So if your child's cussing you out, saying the worst possible things, the only thing you need to hear is that my child is hurting. That's it. I refer to this as focusing on the message, not the method. The method is, you're a horrible parent. I hate you. I wish you were dead. The message is, I'm in pain. I'm hurting. This is a conversation about boundaries, folks. You can decide what you let in. Just because your child is inviting you to suffer at the same level or more than they are, doesn't mean you have to accept the invitation. If they show up and say, hey, mom and dad, I had a bad day. Here's a shit sandwich for you to eat. You don't have to take a bite. Whenever someone is spewing anger upon you, even your own child, it is an invitation to join them in that space of pain. You can learn to set that boundary and say, you know what? I don't feel like receiving a gift today, especially that one. I've decided I'm going to have a good day and maintain my composure. So you can sit there and spew the filth all you want to. All I'm going to say is that I hear that you're in pain. I don't care for the words you're using, so I'm going to ignore those. But I can tell by your tone, I can tell by your intensity, by your passion, that you're in pain. That's all I'm going to hear. If you decide at some point to start using some language that is more respectful and something that we can actually do something about, I'll be happy to hear you. But this gift you're offering, I don't accept it. And you're not rejecting your child by doing this. You're not telling them their feelings don't matter. You're inviting them to begin making the shift away from being a victim. As long as they're spewing this filth at you, they're saying, I'm a victim, you did this, you're to blame. You can't do anything with that. You can do something with, I feel hurt. Something has happened. I feel wronged. I want to feel better than this. I want to heal. I want to move forward. Maybe a young kid doesn't realize they have that option. As a parent, you do realize they have that option. So you can say, I understand you're angry. I can tell, I can hear it. It's healthy to get it out of your system. When you're ready to start talking about how you can feel better, I'll have that conversation with you. But right now, I'll be here while you're feeling this pain, this anger. But I'm not going to feel angry too. It's your anger. Now, this is kind of a superficial look at it, scratching the surface. You can only go so deep in a Facebook Live video. A lot of this is very individual work and needs to be done one-on-one, which is why I offer the services I do. I walk many a client down this path to learning how to depersonalize the hurt in their lives, to not accept the abuse that's thrown at them from anyone, whether it's a bully, whether it's a negative coworker, whoever it is, parents, for crying out loud. So if this is something that interests you, you know how to find me. I'm very accessible. Oh, and one thing I want to share with you, the wise man in this story who declined to accept the abuse of Tom was the Buddha, somebody that I have followed very closely and learned a lot from over my life. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If so, leave me a comment. Let me know how it's benefited you. If there are some other folks who can benefit from this, and I imagine you know plenty, please share it with them so they can benefit as well. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I honor you. This has been Brian, and we'll talk again soon.